Good. Looks like we're on Substack, and I think we're going to get there on YouTube. Yep. Cool. Fantastic. So there we are. There we go. And here the folks are. Hello, everybody. Hi, guys. Guys, gals, Firebrands, all. How are we doing today? How are we doing today? It's good to see you. It is good to see you. Thank you for stopping by today for today's report. Covering some pretty important stuff, and some pretty important stuff. I'm going to give you the latest on Iran. We've got some news coming out of there. We're going to take a moment, and we are going to look at the U.S. economy. We're going to take a look at kind of what's going on here, and just kind of look at some numbers and chat about what that looks like. And I have, an update. We're going to talk a little bit more about this visit with Prime Minister Carney to China, which is going to be interesting, very important on the global stage. And then I have some rapid fire updates for you guys. So, I acknowledge that the newsletter has been long. So I've made an effort to shorten a lot of the things here, provide more context. So if you're watching today, do me a favor and read the newsletter after it comes out, and let me know if you like this. Let me know if you like the shorter the shorter kind of breakdowns. It'll be it'll be up to you. If you guys want me to go back to a little bit longer stuff, or you can let me know. I also made a little difference with the visual slides, so now they are bigger, less compact, more things, so easier to see. So I think those will be helpful today. Full disclosure, there is a graphic image in this in this report. I will announce it. I will tell you when it's coming, so you can put down your phone or look away for the time being, and then I'll let you guys know again when it's off the screen, and then you can come back. If you're just now getting here, do me a favor, and if you're just now getting here, do me a favor, hit that little heart button, and make sure you like the live stream. Make sure you share the live stream, and let's play our game while we're getting ready here. Put your state in the chat, where you're watching from, and how you found the Firebrand project. And if you're watching the recording right now, I want you to do the exact same thing. Leave it in the comments. So let's see if we can get all 50 states. If you got Nikki's always crushing it. If you got, if you're in a different country, if you're in Canada, let me know too. I gotta tell you, I think Mark Carney is, he's the man. I like him. He's real smart. So let's see. We got Massachusetts today. We got Minnesota, Texas, Ohio, Iowa, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Vermont, Pennsylvania, Oregon, Virginia, Brooklyn, New York, Illinois, Michigan, Canada, Illinois. I'm so excited to have Kat. We've been texting today. It's been Tennessee. We got at least 20. We got at least 20 of them. North Carolina, Illinois. Wow, we're getting nice. I one of these days we're gonna get it. New Zealand. Wow, that's really cool. Thank you for joining us. The Firebrand report is for everybody, everywhere in the world. Just because I am an American doesn't mean that the Firebrand report is for everyone. It is a global news show. It is about the world we're living in, and it's for everyone in every country. So I'm so grateful for anyone who's tuning in from anywhere around the world, because the Firebrand Project, we are pro democracy. Yes, the news is absolutely crazy today. And full transparency, everything in this report is accurate to my knowledge up to about 1 p.m. Okay, so if anything has happened in the last hour, I don't know. Nancy, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us today. I don't know if anything's happened in the last hour. I don't know. Um, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go through this best I can. If I finish early, full disclosure, I'm just gonna wrap it up and go. The I can tell you we're gonna talk about Iran today. Um, and Greenland. We're gonna talk about Greenland. Um, so we're going to talk about all these things today. But full disclosure, like I have looked at a lot of things today coming out of Iran, and I'm not okay. Let me put it to you that way. I'm not okay. This is something. It's really something I need to process. It's horrific beyond everything. It's one of the worst things I've seen ever. And I've seen some really fucked up shit. And yes, I just cursed like a lot, and I there's no words for it. And what I show you today is the tamest image that I saw. I so yeah, there's a lot we're going to talk about. One of the things we do here is we do the analysis portion as well. So we talk about all the things that happen, and then I always talk about what I think is going to happen. I played a little game with myself where I went and hey, Sherrod is here. Sherrod, hi with Senator America. Good to see you. We love Sherrod. He's a great friend. Nothing on Venezuela today. I don't think there's been much change there. It's really it's the same shit. The people of Venezuela don't want America there. The United States is not running Venezuela at all, and it was a big publicity stunt. So that's what it is. I never cursed until Trump. I can't claim the same thing, but I certainly curse more than I did. Let me put it to you that way. But yeah, so if you're just getting here, make sure you hit the heart button. Make sure you share the live if you can with somebody. Get them in here for the full report if you can. And of course, if it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining. And I implore you to stay the whole time. I think you will appreciate what you get out of it. I think it will be worth your time. So thank you guys all so much for joining me today as we take a look at what's going on around the world. So, this is a full-time job for me. It is absolutely, I'm using the full capacity of my brain to do this for you guys every day. So, it really, I really appreciate you guys showing up to talk to take it in, because it is it's a lot of work, and it makes me feel like you guys want this, and yeah, this is a really hard time to be in geopolitics. This is a hard time to be looking at the state of the world, and I do it for human decency. I do it for the people of the world who want to know, and we all deserve to know what's going on. And we need to advocate for democracy and human decency the best we can. And to do that, we need to be informed. So with all that said, my friends, Nick Pero is here with us today. Everyone show Nick some love in the chat. Glad you're here for this, Nick. This is an important one today. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Without anything, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the report today. So, my friends, it is January 14th, 2026. I'm reporting to you from the fascist states of America, and the world is on fire. Let's talk about it. So, obviously, right now the world is glued to the chaos in Iran. As I've previously discussed, it appears that military action in the within in Iran, it looks like I think it will take place this week. I'm going to share with you guys why I think that. If you've been watching the previous reports, you probably already know, but I have some more context. We have a huge trade development going on right now, could have massive geopolitical implications, as Prime Minister Carney of Canada is currently in China discussing trade negotiations between Canada and China. Very big deal, and I'll talk to you guys a bit more about that in the report later today. We have an economy in the United States that I really, I do geopolitics, but I'm also very passionate about being transparent about our monetary system, about the economy, and about people here in the United States understanding what the actual environment we're living in is versus what you get out of Wall Street and these brokers and these traders who basically just give you the runaround and basically paint a picture that's much rosier than reality. And I don't want you guys as firebrands to be caught out. I don't want you to suffer any more than you have to. I don't want you guys to lose your money and your hard-earned investments. So, knowing these things is helpful. And if you're not watching from America, I think you'll find it interesting nonetheless. So, right now, I'm going to go ahead and get my slide up on the screen here. So in Iran, we're starting to get some more verified numbers coming out of Iran. So, official numbers right now, as of Wednesday, January 14th, and the US-based human rights activist news agency HRANA has verified the deaths of at least 2,571 people. This figure represents a catastrophic escalation in state violence, and the demographic breakdown of these verified deaths is very chilling. So, of these 2,571 verified deaths, you're looking at what you can see on the screen here as well as 2,403 protesters, civilians directly killed in state violence, 147 government-affiliated personnel, which means that you have armed, military personnel in the streets actively fighting these people. You have 12 minors under 18 that have been killed, and 9 non-protesters through collateral damage. The reality, though, is much worse. Right now, Iran is under a total internet blackout, and you're also seeing this trend of body snatching. So you have the Iranian, Revolutionary Guard Corps and Special Forces. They've been seen storming hospitals and morgues and taking bodies. That this could be, and this is probably a strategy to minimize and remove, death, credible reporting on the deceased, how many have been killed. And so you have, video evidence that's come out of CBS as well that shows bodies piled in morgues in the Tehran suburbs. And they're showing gunshot wounds and birdshot wounds. So they are killing people en masse. And the numbers that we're seeing easily from people within Iran. We talked about this yesterday. 10,000 to 20,000 people have likely been killed. And if you're looking at 10%, right, of that little over 10% of that 20,000 number. So, you know, this is, I would expect that number looks about, um, that number seems about right, because obviously it's really hard to get this information. The Iranian state actually did admit that about 2,000 people have been killed. They've been framing them as terrorists, and so, you know, this is all, a very, things are clearly bad enough that they have to own some degree of this. So, I have, a couple things here. This is from the AL Monitor. And they're quoting Reuters here. The death toll from protests has reached 2,571 people. We said this. HRNA rights group said on Wednesday, as the Islamic Republic's clerical rulers face the biggest wave of dissent in history. The numbers there as well. The numbers we're seeing here as well. PBS reporting over 16,700 people have been detained. Skylar Thompson, who is a human rights activist news agency, told the Associated Press the new toll was shocking, particularly since it reached 4 times the death toll of the month-long Mahsa Amini protests in just 2 weeks. So, this is clearly it is escalating at a level very rapidly. And she said the death toll would still rise. And she said, we're horrified, but we still think the number is conservative. So, that's where things are right now in terms of casualties. And now I am going to go ahead and say trigger warning. So if you are sensitive, you are going to see bodies here. Nothing too gory, but you will see a lot of bodies. So if you are uncomfortable with that, now is the time to put down your phone. Just put it down on the table. You can hear me. If your laptop, maybe just turn around, and we can, I will let you guys know when this is off the screen again. If you can stomach it, I think it's important that we look at these things, that we understand what's going on, and we understand the cost of life, and the level of risk that these people are taking on in this revolution. So I'm going to go ahead and swap the slide here, and we'll look at it really quick, and then we'll keep going as well here. So what we're looking at here is the bodies in a pathology institute. This is a morgue, and the majority of these bodies appear to be young men. So, they've verified, sorry guys, this is really horrific. They've verified that, this is a, this is a more common trend. I'm going to take this off the screen now. I think we all get the point. So, it's important we see it, but we, don't need to, I don't want to force you guys to stare at this any longer than we have to. The majority of these people are young men. Women and children are being kept from the front of the protests as much as you can. But you're, it hurts my soul, because I'm looking at the slaughter of my generation. This is me. If I was born in Iran, if I was there, this is what I would be doing right now. These are, As far as I'm concerned, these are my brothers and sisters on this earth, and they're being slaughtered wholesale for giving a shit about their future. It's really, really horrific. And as we talk about these things, we're seeing a concerning trend here in Iran, and the developing situation of Irfan Sultani. So he is a 26-year-old clothing shop employee who was arrested in Karaj on January 9th. So he was scheduled for execution on Wednesday, January 14th. So today he's being executed, and his case exemplifies the fast track judicial processing promised by Judiciary Chief Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejai. You know, you you know, I'm sorry if you didn't get the warning, Kathleen, but I did actually make several warnings, and I told you guys about that. So I apologize if that made you uncomfortable. I did say that, but unfortunately, I'm sorry if you didn't hear. I apologize. I know it's traumatizing. Trust me. That is the most tame thing that I have seen today. So trust me. The concerning things about the story of Irfan Sultani is not is the speed of his sentencing and execution. So this happened in 5 days, and I have this reporting here from the Iran Wire. They put it very well, so I'm going to go ahead and share that with you now. As concerns grow regarding the fate of those detained during recent protests in Iran, news has emerged of the imminent execution of a young protester named Irfan Sultani. His case has sparked a wave of international alarm over the use of field trials and extrajudicial killings. According to information obtained by Iran Wire, 26-year-old Irfan Sultani has been kept in detention without access to a lawyer, and authorities have not formally charged him. No court hearing has been held in his case. His family has also been threatened, with officials warning if they speak publicly or contact the media about his situations, other family members will be arrested. Human rights lawyer Mohammed Oliafard told the Iran Wire it is legally impossible to arrest someone and execute them within 3 days. Even with a state-appointed lawyer, the absolute minimum for such a process would be 10 days. If the individual has an independent lawyer, it would take at least 30 days to account for the legal window for appeals. So the concern here, at least that comes across, is that you have this case of we talked about it earlier, right? We said there's over 16,000 people in custody, right? So what appears to be happening is you could see a mass execution of these people, right? You're talking about if they're just going to start summarily executing individuals for protesting, and we have over 16,000 people in custody. We don't need. You can absolutely see what would happen there. And if you're trying to really quash a rebellion, which is where they're at, this is a revolution. This is a revolution. Iran is experiencing a revolution right now. And I say that, and that is absolutely going to be backed up by the next thing we're going to talk about here as well. The question is, will lifting sanctions stop this? No. The Iranian rial has entirely collapsed. It is, I think, 1.6 million rial is worth a single dollar, as well as the fact that they are facing a imminent water crisis, and so cities like Tehran have no water. So the mismanagement of water in Iran, and basically this water cartel is what they were called, ultimately you're looking at a total collapse of their water infrastructure. And when I say this, I mean like we're looking at taps running dry. And that is in my opinion, the fundamental base for this whole situation in Iran is that, their industries, particularly agriculture, is going to collapse as water becomes a scarcity. So we just, yeah, the biggest thing going on. Hi, Stephanie. Stephanie has joined us today as well. So the biggest thing going on right now is basically, these people are facing a corrupt government that has absolutely fucked them over in just about every way possible. And they're over it. And so the other thing is, if you're looking at the level of violence committed against them, the people of Iran, this Gen Z who is leading this, my generation, people like Erfani, who are Erfan Soltani, who are my age, 26 years old, are fighting for their future. And things have gone beyond a point of de-escalation. They really have to commit. They've kind of committed. So it's either victory or bust. And if they lose, it's going to be a wholesale slaughter. They're going to kill all of them. I think so. Which leads us to our next topic, because ironically, the intervention of the United States is going to have consequences. And so I am I have long been of the opinion that the United States, is going to strike Iran. We talked about this. This was on the 4th. We started talking about how on the 4th, you saw the United States move assets, the same units who conducted the raid on Maduro, to capture him. They moved them into the UK. And then farther, you had a blackout over air control over Greece for about an hour. That would be consistent with the United States and how they clandestinely move certain assets. And that would have been a flight path that would have led down to the staging areas in Kuwait. And as you can see on the map here as well, Al Udeid Air Base, both of these bases are within striking range of Iran. The really big thing here, though, is the Iran has been pretty candid. They've made multiple statements that if the United States does anything, and basically said to these other countries that are hosting U.S. bases that any attack on Iran will be met with a response from Iran. And to be very clear, Iran is more than capable right now of responding militarily. We've seen that the evacuation of the base, withdrawing certain personnel from Al Udeid. This is confirmed. This is happening. And let me read you guys this reporting here from the Times of Israel, as well as another news outlet here as well. So the United States is withdrawing personnel from key bases in the region as precaution given heightened regional tensions, a U.S. official tells Reuters, speaking on the condition of anonymity. The disclosure follows remarks by a senior Iranian official who told Reuters earlier that Tehran had warned neighbors hosting U.S. troops that it would hit American bases if Washington strikes. Al Udeid is the Middle East's largest U.S. base, housing around 10,000 troops. Ahead of the U.S. airstrikes on Iran in June, personnel were moved off the U.S. bases in the Middle East. And then I have, that's from the Times of Israel, that's what they're reporting. And then I have reporting here on Israel's Army radio reported that the Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, had increased readiness for a range of potential escalation scenarios involving Iran and placed several military formations on heightened alert. Public broadcaster Khan said changes had been made to Israel's air defenses over the past 24 hours, including the deployment of the Iron Dome interceptor system. Citing officials, broadcasters said Israel assesses that Iran is unlikely to attack in Israel unless the United States carries out a large strike on Iranian territory. Okay, so what we're looking at here is Israel is moving defenses into place as if they are expecting a U.S. strike, and have updated their threat level. The United States is following a pre-existing pattern that we've seen already, carried out when they bombed Iran. We've been tracking the movement of these troops, the 160th SOAR, the Night Stalkers, who excel in these targeted attacks on heads of state, sneaking in. We've seen Trump's rhetoric coming out, tell them all of these, keep fighting, help is on the way. And as much as I hate him and I don't listen to what he says, if there's one thing I do tend to pay attention to, it's when he says that the United States is going to attack or bomb someone, because his track record is that he is generally 100% honest when he's talking about foreign intervention. He is such a pathetic egomaniac that he can't help himself but brag about how he has this military that can come and kill you. It's just like he's a liar about everything except when he wants to project power. And you can tell by the type of statements he makes. This is not the kind of 2 weeks. No, this is very on pattern with what we've seen before. So, with everything else that's going on in Iran, that's what I have for you right now. That's where we're at. Like I said, I anticipate, like I said here as well in the reporting and my analysis, I think we're looking at a strike within the next 24 to 48 hours. And I'm going to go into more of that, why I think there's conditions, the conditions I think that are being made to, create that. But the next thing we're going to talk about is I want to talk about the United States economy for a little bit. I've been holding off on this episode, and what I want to do is I just want to go through, I want to look at some stuff. I'm going to let you guys, decide. I'll give you what my thoughts are, but we're just going to look at some numbers. And so I think that everyone in America deserves to know where exactly things are going in our economy and what to expect, because I promise you that the rich and powerful already know what the outcome is going to be, and we can see it happening in real time. And this first thing is going to be the bellwether here. So I want to talk about a couple different things. The first things is I want to talk about the metal super cycle. Okay, when we are looking at gold and silver in particular, if you like, silver is, if you don't own silver, you should. Silver is surging right now. Gold is peaking, and you're seeing, as of today, gold is at $4,641.9 per ounce. Right. So, they're forecasting over 5,000 into 2026. Silver is now at 92.23 per ounce, record highs. And the reason for that is, if you've been watching us for a long time, you'll know that silver is really important in big tech. So they want the silver, which means that privately owning silver, it's a very valuable resource. And there is a lot of struggling, specifically with controls from China on silver, that are going to make getting a hold of silver for these industries very difficult. So we're seeing that surge in silver as well. Lithium is going up. Why? Because lithium is an essential input into the um, into the tech, manufacturing, military, industrial complex. No, they don't want us anywhere near the gold standard. The reason being is because if we had the gold standard, their fake money wouldn't work. They need to be able to inflate the value of the dollar and make it entirely fluid. That's how they plan on doing this. So it just wouldn't. The gold standard doesn't work for them. I don't think they're pumping this. I think this is a real reaction to real market trends. And if they want crypto, if they want to make crypto big, they need silver to build the computers and to build the data centers. They need these materials. I talk about this all the time. It's about the raw inputs. They don't have the raw input to make their $1.3 trillion tech AI investment anything other than a vibe. It's a vibe. They just say this is a $1.3 trillion vibe, and we'll get to it. But the reality is as we're looking at the economic trade environment, things are getting it's very difficult for them to get these materials because we were very heavily dependent on China. So beyond that, right? So that's the first thing I think we should point out is that usually when things are going bad, you see a flight to tangible assets. That's silver, that's gold, that's something that's sitting in a vault somewhere that you can point to and say, I own that, not a stock or an ETF that is entirely dependent on the valuation of an entity that is vulnerable to collapse. And as we're talking about that, we need to consider the fact that we are seeing record bankruptcies in 2025 and 2026, record bankruptcies. And a lot of you might know the company Saks Global. This is something I've been watching. Again, I talked about this last week about Saks and how they might end up going bankrupt. And so as of today, they did file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which signifies a big shift here. This is one of the retail giants, and they made a lot of aggressive maneuverings. Particularly, they tried to buy a $2.65 billion acquisition of Neiman Marcus back in 2024. And, their liabilities are listed between 1 billion and 10 billion. Luxury giants like Chanel and Kering are, unsecured. So this is just another example. And Saks has secured $1.75 billion in DIP financing. Incredible, right? Incredible how you can just go bankrupt for billions of dollars. And yet somehow as a corporation, you could just take more debt and keep going. It's just insanity to me. This is entirely enabled by the banks, because if an individual claims bankruptcy, what happens is they can't get credit. They are basically screwed. They can never get a loan. You just don't get to participate in the American economy. Yet for a corporation or for Trump and all of his casinos that went bankrupt because he was laundering money through them and not actually fucking doing anything, you can just go bankrupt. And that's that. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so what we're seeing is big retail giants like this, go into debt. The reasoning, I think, is largely because things are also getting just so tense in America that those who tend to spend more, even those wealthier Americans, are cutting back on luxury spending. Places like Saks is very much for the rich and the wealthy, and there's just not enough billionaires to make businesses like this profitable. They really counted on the upper middle class, and as those folks are getting more and more squeezed financially, they're going to stop spending, and they're going to be a lot more discretionary about what they're doing. So the era of this luxury consumption is coming to an end as a result of, it looks like, a severe economic downturn, and that's of course exacerbated by what I'm seeing as something else I've been watching, which is this credit crisis, this delinquency spiral. We're seeing that 61% of cardholders with debt have carried it for over a year, indicating that debt has become structural. Total credit card debt exceeds $1.23 trillion. So, this is delinquency rates are projected to go up to 2.57% by the end of 2026. I think that's conservative. And when you're looking at credit card numbers as well, they like averages. So a lot of this isn't really even representative to the actual situation because you're playing with these averages. So the delinquency rate can go down, but the delinquency is being paid off. That rate is being affected by maybe 5% who is paying down. They're paying off their bills, and can do that regularly and in large quantities. But the credit crisis is very real. We saw record buy now, pay later spending over the holidays in the United States, and it very much appears at this point that things are just beyond a point of the American consumer really being able to afford or pay for their debt, and that's going to get worse significantly if we see a large scale crisis or a larger collapse. And just some more, examples for you. So the CFPB, they are mandated to do a report on credit card, growth and balances every several years. And they found that credit card delinquencies and charge-offs reached historically high levels in early 2024, but have since fallen to pre-pandemic levels. However, again, with credit cards, it's weird because you have these averages, but I want to talk about these things. So auto loans, accounts with 60 over DPD are expected to reach 1.54%, marking the fifth straight year of higher delinquencies. Each increase has become progressively smaller. Mortgages are projected to hit 1.65% in December, which is influenced by a modest rise in unemployment. Again, I think these are minimized. Consumers, unsecured personal loans for consumers are forecast to be at 3.75%. That's up, driven partly by macroeconomic pressures, right? So I'm quoting this to you from, and it's important I note this, the newsroom, transunion.com. So these are financial institutions, and I find that they really downplay the severity. But I want to show you those numbers because these analysts, they talk about these things like it's not as bad as it is, but it is. Trump floating this 10% cap for credit card. That's literally over halving what the current interest rate is on cards. Most Americans are looking probably at over 20%. It is, so this is like the banks are not happy about this. I think this is probably just a talking point. It doesn't benefit them. It actually hurts the wealthy. So it's entirely contrary to their methodology of doing these things. We need to really consider the housing market right now. It is worse than it's ever been. Home sales are stuck at a 30-year low. And they're entirely flat versus 2024. Mortgage rates are fixed around 6.16%. It's lower than 2024 peaks, but it's still too high for Americans to even enter the market right now because of all of these other things that we're talking about. Trump is talking about this ban to, again, stop institutional investors from buying these homes. This is, again, it's like, I don't think that this is a credible thing. I think this is just a move to placate folks. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, the reality is that if people were to sell right now, they would lose money on their homes. And it's just not a market where people can really offload houses. So that would mean that new houses are what's selling, but people can't afford that either. So you're basically locked in this state of stagnation. However, what I want to talk about next is what I consider to be the bellwether for our economy. It's what I think is going to be the ace in the hole. And it's what I have been watching very closely over the course of 2025, all the way back to April, and the quote unquote Liberation Day, and it's the state of our manufacturing industry here in the United States. December, I reported on this. There was a 47.9 PMI in December, which is the lowest that it was for the third consecutive months. You know, the ISM PMI is it's an aggregation. You take a bunch of different factors, those factors being orders, inventory, employment, and the volume in and out, all of these things that's driven this number. The idea is anything above 50 indicates growth. Anything below 50 indicates contraction. Okay, so we are now into 2026, and currently the PMI is coming in at 51.8. Just because we're over 50 does not mean we're growing, right? Imagine if you're walking or something, a 47.9 would be you're slowly walking backwards. The 51.8 would be if you were, crawling on your stomach and dragging yourself along with your fingertips. It's not something to celebrate. There's a great comment in the chat here. I'm seeing, wasn't manufacturing supposed to be coming back? And they are able to maintain this manufacturing narrative of growth. And they're doing that by saying that they are investing into new manufacturing. The reality is that just because you allocate $4 billion to build a plant does not mean that that plant exists, that those jobs exist, that the material to build that plant, get it online, exists. So this is a really really big deal, and particularly the key drivers for the index contractions. In these pullbacks is the contraction of the production index, which is down to 51, and more importantly, the new orders at 47.7. That means that they are actively they're losing orders. So what's happening is they're producing just enough for inventory, but they actually don't have they don't have an actual growth. So as new orders continues to pull back, you're going to see this increasingly get pulled. But of all of the factors, that I would see very concerning, new orders here, this is a bellwether, right? This is saying that these factories, you can't run a factory if no one's ordering things. Again, if we're in a form of contraction here, you're looking at further reduction there. Again, we're seeing as well bankruptcies en masse in manufacturing, particularly manufacturing and retail, but manufacturing especially. And so, you're seeing Chapter 11's filings increasing, but commercial filings were up 5%. So you're looking at these the production industries. They are struggling, the most. So I've got something from the Monitor Daily here that I want to read with you guys, and then I also want to talk about two things that I have, one from the S&P Global and one from the Monitor Daily. So we'll read this together. While growth remained broad at the end of 2025, the rates of expansion softened across both manufacturing and services. The manufacturing production rose at the slowest pace in 5 months amid a stagnation of new orders, this was while the U.S. manufacturers reported a weak end to 2025, attributed to the first fall in goods new order in a year. Globally, purchasing activity And inventory levels among goods producers also declined further at the end of the year, reflecting subdued conditions and diminished expectations for demand in the coming 6 months, um, while coming 6 months. Meanwhile, both services, activity, and new businesses increased at the slowest rate in 6 months. Again, this is from the Monitor Daily. Large U.S. corporate bankruptcies surged to one of the highest monthly totals in 5 years in December 2025, with filings increasing to 72 from 63 in November, according to the latest S&P Global Market Intelligence data. This rise extended the 15-year high for annual filings set in November, reaching 785 for the year, the highest since 2010. Rising interest rates have been a significant factor, with companies struggling to refinance debt, right? That's what we're seeing with Saks, but we're also seeing that in our manufacturing sector. And so these are things that, while they like to frame this as slow growth, we're not looking at growth. What everyone should be doing is ringing the alarm bell. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it. I'm not an economist, but I also don't have any self-interest in making more money than you, or making sure that I'm ahead of the curve when the economy drops, so that I, as a rich person, can make out like a bandit. So I'm telling you how I see it, not these economists and a lot of these guys, they have a vested interest in everyone not pulling their money out, and everyone actually preparing for this is a detriment to the amount of money they can make. They're counting on everyone really suffering and getting their butts kicked here, I think. So carpetbaggers, exactly. So we're going to pivot and we're going to talk about Canada, because there's something absolutely huge going on, and I think it is going to have a profound effect on our economy. And we might see this could be a big blow to the United States economy. Carney is in China. Mark Carney, the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, has made his way to China. And we're seeing a lot of things come out of China, but the silver lining, literally, honestly, silver's the way out. I digress. So, what you're seeing here is he is now in China. This is the first time he's visited in over 10 years. You've seen a Canadian leader visit China, and this is signaling a massive, massive wedge between the United States and Canada, which I fully support as an American, just so we're clear. This is something that Xi Jinping invited Carney back in what I believe was November, when there was a summit between Xi Jinping and Trump and all these people. They talked on the side in South Korea. So, this is from AP News, and I'm going to kind of read you guys what's going on. But basically, you have the Chinese media. They're putting out this method, this message that they're encouraging Canada to break away from U.S. influence and avoid the heavy price of following Washington. Right? That's a threat, right? I mean, it is a threat, but Carney's smart enough to know that he should take that very seriously. And he also knows what he's bringing to the table. And I think that I'll give you guys my prediction on what I think this is going to look like at the end, and why it's so important. So from the Associated Press, as Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney arrives in China on Wednesday, his hosts see an opportunity to peel the longtime U.S. ally away from their rival, at least a bit. China's state media is calling on the Canadian government to set a foreign policy path independent of the United States, what it calls strategic autonomy. Chinese experts said the two countries would find common ground over the U.S. military intervention in oil-rich Venezuela that forcibly brought its president to New York to face charges, and Trump's subsequent attacks, statements that Greenland, a Danish territory, should come under United States control. Carney is aiming to double Canada's non-American exports in the next decade, in the face of Trump's tariffs and just overall I'm going to say dipshittery. And this is a statement from him. We're forging new partnerships around the world to transform our economy from one that has been reliant on a single trade partner. Absolutely. And I think it's going to be a successful visit for them. So Carney is meeting with the premier, Li Qiang, and the president, of course, Xi Jinping. There is an existing tension between Canada over Canadian canola oil, pork, seafood after some tensions, I believe, back around in 2010s, 2014 maybe. But the idea here, particularly the conversation, and the words used are important when Carney was talking about this. The suggestions are going to be, and the conversations are on energy and climate cooperation. We're talking about Canadian liquid natural gas and oil to China. You have a statement from Li Qiang here, expressing readiness to work with Canada to maintain and develop positive momentum while addressing each other's economic and trade concerns through dialogue and consultation. Li called on the two sides to deepen and expand mutually beneficial cooperation in energy, green development, and other fields to bring more benefits to people. So that's all I have in terms of slides for you guys today, but I do have some updates for you on some other events that are going on. So, I have some little rapid fire updates for you guys, and we'll go over those now. So, first thing, we have an update on Greenland. We saw that JD Vance, Babyface, and Secretary Rubio, Dead Eyes, met with Danish leadership at the White House today on today. And the statements out of the Danish Prime Minister, they are as follows. The conversation on Wednesday that a fundamental disagreement over Greenland remains with President Donald Trump after highly anticipated talks in Washington with President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American community security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen told reporters after joining Greenland's Foreign Minister Vivian Motzfeldt for the talks. Trump is trying to make the case that NATO should help the U.S. acquire the world's largest island and says anything less than it being under American control is unacceptable. Denmark has announced plans to boost the country's military presence in the Arctic and North Atlantic as Trump tries to justify his calls for a U.S. takeover of the vast territory by repeatedly claiming that China and Russia have their designs on Greenland. Løkke Rasmussen told reporters that it remains clear that the president has this wish of conquering over Greenland. And we made it clear that this is not in interest of the kingdom, he said after the meeting, citing a fundamental disagreement with Trump again. But he is willing to keep talking. This means that from today and in the coming time, there will be an increased military presence around Greenland of aircraft, ships, and soldiers, including from other NATO allies. Earlier, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson wrote on X that some officers from the Swedish Armed Forces are arriving in Greenland today as part of a group of several allied countries. Together, they will prepare events with the framework of the Danish exercise Operation Arctic Endurance. We have basically they're maintaining this line that Greenland is just going to be property of the United States apparently, and that they're playing hardball. I got a couple other things, but we're going to talk about all this stuff as well in a little bit here. So we have ongoing peace talks that have started up again regarding Sudan, which we cover a lot here. If you haven't seen a previous report, if you're new, the war in Sudan is approaching its third year, and it's an absolute massacre. It's brutal. It's the largest humanitarian crisis in the world. I mean that. It outstrips Gaza and Palestine. It outstrips Ukraine. It is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world. And so you have Cairo initiating peace talks in regard to bring in hopefully some aid into El Fasher, which is a region that in October, the RSF, a terrorist group that is backed by the United Arab Emirates, stormed the city, took it from the the government-backed defense forces, and perpetrated a massacre of over 70,000 people over the course of 10 days. The Yale Research Laboratory was able to confirm through satellite data that you could see the bloodstains and the piles of bodies from space. This is a absolutely horrific situation in this region, and so you're looking like Sudan peace efforts are underway. So I have more about that in the newsletter, and I encourage you to go and read that as well. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, we saw a massive landslide in northern Kivu, in Berutsi, which has killed at least 13 people, with 30 more missing. This is happening in the same region where you have M23 and the Democratic Republic of the Congo backed military forces actively in combat. M23 has taken control over the mineral-rich regions in the area and is working with Rwanda to smuggle out rare earth minerals. So we have this natural disaster occurring in that war zone. And so very, very horrific environmental things going on. And lastly, I do want to talk a little bit about America here. I want to talk about what's going on in Minnesota, and I want to talk about the killing of Renee Good. Beyond the fact that, I've seen a lot of videos, I've seen a lot of killing in my time doing this job. The blatant murder of Renee Nicole Good. There's absolutely no question that her steering wheel was turned away from the officer. The militiaman, the ICE militiaman. He was turned away. Was turning away. There was no imminent threat to his life, and he shot her in the face. 100% just shot her in the face without any cause. So that is murder by any acceptable standard. There's really just no question that that's murder. Unfortunately, on Monday, we saw that a judge today declined to issue a restraining order against ICE in Minnesota, seeking further evidence before a ruling, which is kind of crazy. So basically they have dismissed the lawsuits that were put in place because on Monday you saw Minnesota, the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul also announced a lawsuit against Nome and federal officers to stop the surge of ICE agents. They're saying this is a violation of the 10th Amendment, which states that the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So basically that, they can't come in here and basically occupy their city. Homeland is now saying that they've got 3,000 agents in Minneapolis. And it looks like the situation is escalating. You're seeing a mass exodus within the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division and attorneys as well. So they're leaving. You have walkouts in Minneapolis. Many of the students in Maple Grove, Minneapolis, and Roseville are holding walkouts to protest ICE. Fantastic. These young people are doing the right thing here. And the administration has reimposed a policy limiting Congress's members' access to immigration detention facilities a day after the fatal ICE shooting. Attorneys for several Democrats said on Monday in asking a federal judge to intervene. The situation here in Minneapolis, I'm trying to report on this like I would report on any other global event. I want to give it to you from the perspective of not an American, but as an analyst and what this looks like, how would I look at this situation if I was looking at a different country? And here's what I would tell you based on this information. Um, it appears that the legal system of the United States, the judiciary, is covering for the state, militia, the state police, which are ICE. It looks like things are very tense, and if ICE continues to escalate, we could see more violence. And I am, we're seeing an entire breakdown of the rule of law in the United States of America, because that law does not apply to individuals who are using violence to enforce the will and, instill fear in the people of the United States and enforce the will of the regime. So this is a very, very pivotal moment for the United States. And these are times where, if I'm looking at a different country, I'm saying, ooh, this is a precursor to something that could be very concerning, very violent. And so it is my hope that the people of America can do like something that I saw on the street. This is what I've called for personally. I think that there should be a general strike. I think that is the best way to show them what they're messing with. And so a general strike might be the best option, because, if we don't see that in the United States, this is something going on. And yeah, so NATO is sending troops to Greenland. I believe I was talking about that earlier. If I didn't make that clear, there is troops. There's actually already Danish special forces in Greenland, and they're actively ramping up their military capacity there. And so really quick, here are my thoughts on all of this, because I include this at the end of every newsletter. But if you guys don't, no kidding, Neuro. The white middle class doesn't know how to strike at all. They're incapable because they're too worried about their fucking paycheck. It's disappointing. The situation in Iran. What are my thoughts on what's going on in Iran? The pattern we've seen this year, foreign intervention, we're at a peak. The situation in Iran is deteriorating. It's at a critical stage, and those who are protesting, we've passed the point of protest, and we have entered the realm of revolution. Those in custody face summary execution, and that number is over 16,000. The Israel is moving its famed Iron Dome air defenses, of course, which it doesn't do unless it's expecting something to happen. In general, I would expect to see a strike in Iran in the next 48 hours. And these are the three reasons. These are several reasons that I believe this to be the case. The first being U.S. and Israeli forces have a limited window of instability. If the protests are quashed by the Ayatollah regime, direct military action will be more difficult. 2, the evacuation of non-essential personnel from Al Udeid, which houses around 10,000, is a measure to safeguard U.S. troops and civilian contractors from the expected retaliatory strike from Iran. Special operations forces, which are closely linked to the Trump government and recently participated in the operation to capture Nicolas Maduro, appear to be in the region. 4, Trump is making similar comments to those that he made prior to military action in Venezuela. These comments ultimately have a history of being true when he is referring to military action. I was talking about this earlier. The loss of life in Iran is massive. Looking at the images and videos coming out of Iran today is something that will stay with me forever. These are young people like me who crave liberty, freedom, and opportunity. And Iran is slaughtering its next generation, and they're being slaughtered by the generation that was supposed to make a world for them to inherit. Instead, their dreams and aspirations are met with machine gun fire. The effects of United States intervention are not guaranteed to remove the regime. The Ayatollah has fortified itself, brought up its military capacity, and is treating its population like an insurgency. They are well armed, their soldiers are loyal, and they will be difficult to remove. For the Iranian revolution to succeed, some form of foreign intervention is required. However, the US or Israeli intervention does not mean a better future for Iran, merely a future full of more corruption, power squabbles, and uncertainty. Yeah, Mason, I think that the operation is likely to be a decapitation of the Ayatollah. I would say that would make the most sense based on the assets they've moved there. So I think it could have even been something as simple as Maduro was practice. Like seriously, I thinking about this, like maybe the capture and killing, the capture of Maduro was these guys doing a practice run because they moved the same guys out there. The same dudes who did Maduro are out there right now. I think the United States economy, based on everything that we are looking at, that we talked about today, it's on a death spiral. So this is kind of how I wrote it. I said, the collapse is shaping up to be a slow one. The American economy is being taken on a death march as the American consumer is marched out farther and farther by its corporate overlords, slowly dropping one by one to be consumed by credit card debt and loan payments. Major corporations are filing for bankruptcy like it's candy, and shelves are looking more and more sparse at big box stores like Target and Walmart. Now is the time to look at your assets and decide how to best shelter your money, because what is coming next is nothing short of world history. And I really mean that. Obviously I was talking about, metals, precious metals, basically anything that is an input into the industrial complex of technology is a good investment right now. Lithium, silver, gold, absolutely, because they don't want Trump to invade in Iran because it destabilizes the entire region, and both of them are making deals with Iran. They both work with Iran. So the big thing I'm expecting out of the meeting with Carney and Xi Jinping is an announcement on oil and natural gas. The fallout of this for the United States is massive. Everything they're doing, including what they're trying to do in Iran, is focused on tackling and cutting off Chinese access to oil. Venezuela and Iran, the Strait of Hormuz. This is a reaction to Chinese mineral controls and this economic war in which the United States is using its military force to basically undermine Chinese investments and try and cut off their access to oil. And that is very much in line. If China and Canada come to an agreement where Canada will supply oil and liquid natural gas to China, there is that undermines the entire strategy the United States is using to pressure China. So basically, there is while the Saudis and the United Arab Emirates are fighting each other in Yemen, so that's like a huge, that basically it's one thing to seize a Chinese shadow fleet oil tanker or a Venezuelan tanker or a Russian tanker. It's entirely different to have to seize a Canadian tanker. And China and Canada's already demonstrated that they can do this and reach this capacity. In 2025, they had their first oil and gas exports to South Korea. They used to do all this through the United States. Now they don't. So pretty big deal there. And so I anticipate that this could be a really big shakeup. And this just puts more and more pressure on the United States. And it kind of really undermines their entire strategy. The irony of China's monopoly on, the world, the global mineral supply is I say, this is a great irony. It's like, thanks to them, we are not living in a full-blown surveillance state. It is because of China and their controls that we are not living in a surveillance state. It's because the oligarchs and the techno-fascists cannot, in the United States, because of them, not being able to get the things they need to actually get their data centers online to make use of the chips that they have, it's because of China. So, in this case, whatever the case may be, from an American's overall safety and privacy perspective, this is a boon, ironically. And I think that the more quickly that they push the United States towards a economic collapse, the faster you're going to see some large scale change. So, part of a country reestablishing its order and people reasserting their importance to the government and that the government should serve them, there needs to be a catalyst. So I do think that, with Renee Nicole Good and that this is just this could effectively upset the whole U.S. economy because it undermines their entire foreign strategy. Lastly, that is my silver lining, to be honest with you, France. Lastly, I personally have been doing some research into ICE and the suspicion that Arturo Dominguez mentioned this to me, and I looked into this more. The idea of ICE being basically consisting of Proud Boys who were groomed in a similar style and fashion to Hitler Youth over the course of the decade. And I went and I did some really comprehensive research into this, and that is unfortunately very true. True to the point of which that you can actually verifiably see certain laws and regulations that were waived or changed under the big beautiful bill to actually allow for these people to be these white nationalist, extremist, violent domestic terrorists, the same people who perpetrated January 6th, to be essentially brought in and serve as a private police of the Trump government. So in that regard, it's very clear, and you can even go back and verifiably track this relationship. So this is not a question; it's a reality. And so in that regard, I'll be me or Kat, somebody will take that research and we'll get it out to you as soon as we can do that. So. With all that said, that's what I got for you guys today. That's a Firebrand report. I know we went a little long, and I apologize about that. I always just kind of want to make sure that I get to the bottom of it. So, folks, if you want to support the Firebrand project, if you want to help me continue to do this work, help me bring in more great minds like Kat. Who is a fantastic addition to the Firebrand think tank. Go ahead and subscribe today. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified when I do these reports, as well as so that you receive the newsletter and the recording if you miss the report, so you can get access to this information. If you want to and you can, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. It's because of paid subs that I'm able to do this. And as much as, and thank you for scanning that QR code, I'll talk about it. As much as we're getting done now, the reality is that, we do need, to grow that paid subscriber community to continue this growth and this mission and to eventually get people like Kat paid because they deserve to be paid. So if I can pay the bills here, I can pay Kat. And you better believe the second I have an extra penny, it's going to go to the people doing the work. Or at the very least, getting us more tools to do so. So the last thing you can do is there's a QR code right here. You can scan it. Someone already did. It takes you to the Firebrand project. Go buy me a coffee. There you can make a one-time donation, or you can sign up for various subscription options. So thank you so much. For all of those who have gone and donated there. The most important thing I say at the end of every report, it's the part that makes you a Firebrand and not just a watcher. and just not an observer. It's the most important part of what we do. And it's that you take what we talked about today, you take the newsletter, or you take the recording here and you share it with someone. You do that through text or through email, as well as do the Firebrand thing. Take, this work that I'm doing here, and take it with you to your community center, to church, to the library, to lunch with your friend, to coffee with a mate or a pal, to the bus stop, or everywhere you go. Because as a Firebrand, your job is to forge dialogue and burn bright. And I'm just the first. I'm just the first step in this chain, and I do it so that you guys can finish the mission. You're all Firebrands here. That's why the 230 of you who are with me today have joined me to get this information, so that you can take it out into the world and do the right thing. Let your torch burn bright. So, with all that, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Make sure you hit that heart button and leave a comment on the recording as well if you're watching it here. I will be back tomorrow. And until then, my friends, burn bright, resist, and I'll talk to you all later.